Lovely. So lovely. Welcome to Scofield Farm. I am so excited to share my garden with you today for a June garden tour. There has been so much change in the last month, and the garden is starting to change again. So let's get started. My name is Carice. I live in Northern California in Zone 9B, and we are able to garden year-round here. This has been the mildest June that I can remember in my history of living here, which I grew up here because my family is indigenous to this area. It's been very nice for the garden. A lot of things have thrived, and I can't wait to show you what is coming alive in my garden right now. Let us start with my potato bed, which I am about to start digging some of them up. The other day we dug up our first couple for dinner, and I just placed an order for 5 more pounds of Yukon Gold seed potato to do a second planting because we live in an area that is warm enough to have a long growing season and grow more potatoes, and yet it's too warm of an area for good storage. So let me show you what this looks like. This is my potato bed. We built it by mounding up compost and then wood chips on top of our ground. None of the potatoes were actually planted in the clay soil, but planted in the compost that we put above it. We started this area with sheet mulching. We put down cardboard and smothered the weeds, and then we put down good compost. So as you can see, they're different sizes. These right here that are darker, those I planted later because we used to have, what did we have here? We had chard, we had some different brassicas that we let go a little bit longer. So those are a darker color. Those are actually just from grocery store potatoes that I left in the cupboard too long. And the rest of them that are lighter and starting to die, and some of them are blooming, those are actually from seed potato that we got at Tractor Supply. We got Red Noland, and I believe it was Kennick Gold. I think that's how you say it. I could totally be wrong. We planted sunflowers along the fence line right behind our potatoes. We did this last year. It was quite beautiful to see the sunflowers coming up, and they are doing, some of them are doing well, some of them are not. That is okay. They probably need a little more water. Over here, you will see a volunteer sunflower in the potato bed that is happily blooming. This one came back from seeds that fell from sunflowers that were here last year. I will never complain about volunteer sunflowers. Next, I'm going to show you our asparagus beds. What we chose to do was someone gave us these self-watering beds, and we decided, since we weren't positive where we wanted this perennial plant, we decided to put them in these self-watering beds. That way, if we want to move them at some point, we can, and they can grow and get established before we decide exactly what to do. We planted them last winter, so this is our second summer of them. Next year, we should actually be able to harvest. We harvested just a couple just to taste this year. And you can see all of those little berries that grow on it. Those actually will drop as seeds, and I really should push them back over the beds so that they can get fuller and more asparagus for future years. Next, I want to show you my fence line of sunflowers and my sunflower forest. I chose this year to plant sunflowers along the entire perimeter of my vegetable garden, and I do not regret that at all. It is going to be so lovely, and I want to show you how it's going so far. The sunflower forest, as I call it, is an open space that I have not developed in my garden yet, that there are a bunch of volunteer sunflowers that are coming up, and they are just beautiful and have already brought so many of our honeybees that we actually do backyard beekeeping. So many of our honeybees have been brought into our garden because of these gorgeous, happy sunflowers. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is a volunteer sunflower right here. It's kind of leaning over a little bit, but the volunteer ones I don't actually water. Their taproot seems to go deep enough that they are getting enough sustenance. The ones that I planted along the fence line, I do water every couple days. This one, oopsie, this one's already getting some flower buds on it, and they go all the way down the fence line, and they are varying sizes. I have all different varieties. I have a video where I actually show you how I started them inside and which varieties I chose to plant, and everything but the silverleaf came up. The only ones that didn't germinate for me were silverleaf. So everything else in that video is represented in what I ended up getting in this perimeter sunflower bed. Look at that. Look at all the pollen. Our bees are going to be so happy. And you know, one thing I love about having sunflowers on this east side of the garden is sunflowers always face east when they are fully mature. And so it gives a beautiful view to my chickens, because our chicken coop is east of our garden. And we free range our chickens, so they are always gathering outside of the garden fence for me to feed them little treats from my pruning. So these over here on our south side are definitely smaller, but they're growing. I probably need to water them today, but when I do garden tours, I have to be really careful to not get caught up in doing little chores. Oh my gosh, look at this one. This one is one of the little tiny ones, and so it's going to be really small and squat when it blooms. Oh, see? She's coming up thinking that I have a treat for her. No treats right now. No treats right now. Okay, so I'm trying not to have my shadow in this too much. I came out during the sunlight. Oh, you've got to see my California poppies right there. I have several parts of volunteer California poppies in my paths. I love California poppies. It is our state flower. I let them grow, and we really enjoy them, and obviously the pollinators enjoy them. Here's a teeny tiny one by our spigot, and it seems like I have a lot of the squat ones over here, so this will be fun. Last year I took a picture of my girls next to a little squat one, and it was so cute. So this is the south side. Now the west side, these are all pretty small still, and not all of them are supposed to be small, so I probably need to work on watering these. Oh, this one's leaning over. Well, I'll have to stabilize that one a little better later. And here is my hubby and son dealing with a leak. Oh goodness. When you get a property that is, everything was done 40 years ago, it's like crisis control all the time. Look at this one, it's starting to open. Oh, it's gonna be so cute. That's a pretty one. I need to look up which one that was that I planted. Okay, so these are kind of small on the south side. I wonder why the east side ones are overall doing better, but they are. And then finally on our north side, we have them going all the way down to the gate and to the potato bed. This is what I call sunflower forest. These were all volunteers, and I love them. They're by my chair and my umbrella where I like to sit, and they are so happy. They are pretty. They're all different heights. Most are multi-head. You can see there's already a little bee in there enjoying that one. Oh, hi little bee. Yeah, there's bees all over these things. They're super happy. Oh, that one has great pollen saddles. I don't know if you could see that. Tons of pollen in its pollen saddle. So this is just wonderful for pollinators to grow sunflowers. They love them. They are so happy and cheerful. That one is huge. If you look at my hand, I don't have huge hands, but that is very, very big head. Ooh, that bee thought I was a sunflower. Okay, here is a sunflower in the path of my arch trellises. I have cattle panel arch trellises, 3 in a row, and I had a volunteer smack in the middle of the path, And many people would probably move that, but I didn't. I thought, why not enjoy it? The trellises aren't quite full yet. We will talk about them later and what is growing on them, but since it's not full yet, let's have it enjoy the sunlight. I have a huge tall one that volunteered in this bed, and I left it quite beautiful. Next, I want to show you how I grow my watermelon. I've done it this way 2 years, and it may not be the best way to do it, but it's worked so far for me because in the past, when I had watermelon in my raised beds, I would get tons and tons of aphids on them, so much I didn't get fruit. I moved it to this self-watering bed and gave it like a teepee trellis, and it has done so much better. Let me show you. Okay, I have 2 pots, one that has peas that are finishing up, one that has pole beans, purple pole beans, forgot the official name of them, that are just starting to sprout. Oh, I think there's one over here I saw, yeah, just barely, I don't know if you can see that, barely sprouting. They will grow up this side. I'm going to replant this pot with pole beans as well. And just across from it, I have my watermelon. Some of them I'm going to let trail out on the ground underneath. And some of them I am encouraging to grow up the trellis. I will secure them and check them often for when they're ready. See that little one right there growing? It's not going to focus for you, but one of the ways you know when cantaloupe or watermelon are ready is when the little tendrils right next to it start to dry up. So I keep an eye on that, especially when I grow melons vertically, so that I can get them before they would want to fall off the vine. The next area I want to share with you is one of my pepper beds. This is more my sweet, mild, and medium bed. I have a bolting lettuce right here, and a couple videos ago I showed you how I actually harvest lettuce seeds from these little heads that look sort of dandelion-like, and you can go back to that video to see how I do it. I have lots of flowers I add to my beds. Here's a zinnia about to open. I believe those are snapdragons, but I'm not entirely remembering. I have both bunching onions and chives in this bed. I have dill. Oh, it is just spectacular. Goodness gracious, I love it. I have echinacea. So dreamy. And I'm so proud that I started this from seed. I started at the wrong timing, so the whole first year it was only leaves. And then I had to wait till the next year for it to bloom, and this is the 3rd year, and it's just absolutely stunning and gorgeous and probably too big for some of these peppers. I have blooming cilantro, which I love because it brings good bugs to the garden. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that teeny little pollinator. And then in my bed, I also have chard that has been here for quite a while. And I have green smoothies, and I pick it for my chickens. I have a habit of feeding them chard when I'm in the garden through the fence. I added cosmos to this garden bed. Look at that dragonfly. Do you see that? Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, that dragonfly is one of the reasons I do no spray. I don't use chemicals in my garden. Excuse me, the only thing I use sometimes for aphids is I'll sometimes put food grade diatomaceous earth on the soil, not on the plant, because I don't want it to bother pollinators. But that's actually very rare. I mostly will spray off with water or let nature do its thing where the good bugs come, the predatory insects come and eat the pests. And that's why, because I get beautiful things like butterflies, dragonflies, ladybugs, interesting little pollinators. I don't even know their names. Tons of our honeybees, carpenter bees, bumblebees. They all are welcome here because there is not pesticides. There's not things that are going to hurt them. And your garden really will balance out more if you feed it good compost and you do practices that are more organic and natural. The the predatory insects will come and help you with your problems. And that is why I get so happy when I see something like that dragonfly that is just happy to make its home in my garden. Okay, back to what's in this garden bed. It looks like there's a teeny little, do you see that? A volunteer sunflower. I have purple carpet alyssum and beautiful chamomile just starting to bloom. Oh my goodness. The alyssum's gonna kind of spread out like a ground cover, which I'm totally good with. Right here are some, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on words. Scallops. My friend sent me scallops to grow. And no, I said scallops. I can't believe it. They're scallions. Oh, I think this is ready for me to harvest. This one's probably overdone. Okay, let me show you this real fast. This is a garlic that volunteered in here. I did not plant it here. We had garlic here last year. And see how it's falling over? That's too many dead leaves. This one is probably overripe. Oh, maybe it's not. And I'm just gonna pull it out. Oh my goodness, how funny is that? It almost has 2 layers of, like a lower layer and a top layer. But hey, it was a volunteer and I get essentially free garlic. This little onion is about ready. You know onions are ready when their neck falls over, and then they're not going to grow anymore. But I am not in a hurry to harvest it because I'm giving you a tour and I have to stop doing the harvesting and working. So let's go back to the tour. Okay, I have in here, as you can see, onions that were around the bed. Then I have lots and lots and lots of peppers, all kinds of peppers. Here's another zinnia. This one is called Purple Peruvian, and look how gorgeous the little flowers are. Like, truly beautiful. And I love how the leaves have like a blackish color on them, purpley black color. I don't know why I'm whispering. So many kinds of peppers in here. If you want to see what kinds of peppers I grow, I suggest you going to one of my pepper videos. I think both when I planted the peppers, I talked about what they were. When I started the seeds, I talked about what they were. But there's a lot of peppers growing in here and thriving and doing well. And it makes me so happy because I love peppers. If you stick around for long, you're gonna learn that about me. I love peppers. Like, everyone who knows me knows I love peppers. And I would say it was my favorite thing to grow in the garden, but I can't pick favorites. And I love homegrown tomatoes so dearly that it's hard to say peppers over tomatoes because, you know, there's something really special about a homegrown tomato. But peppers are so fun, and I've got to try so many varieties that I had never known existed when I started gardening. And I've just expanded every year to more and more types of peppers and more quantity of peppers that I grow. It is so fun, and they are so tasty. There's a pepper for every kind of person. I mean, I'm sure I could find one that you would like. So on the end of my pepper bed, I like to grow vertically up this trellis butternut squash. And you'll see on my other pepper bed, I like to grow cantaloupe. And I have one go on one side, the other on the other side. They meet in the middle. Sometimes they intermingle, but this has worked well for me to grow them vertically. I have got so many fruit that it has been wonderful. And I feel like the pollinators can get in here easier. And the pollinator I usually have for butternut squash seems to be carpenter bees. They just love it. I tucked a little bait alpha cucumber under here. There were supposed to be a couple, but bugs ate them. A seed I planted didn't come up. So I have just one, and it will come up the edge of this arch trellis as well. Okay, so after the butternut squash going up the trellis, I have eggplant, and they're growing kind of slow, but that's okay with me. It gives the peppers time to grow, and the eggplant will take off once we get the heat. It has not been hot here, but next week it is going to be 110. So we have our regular scheduled programming commencing, and I'm not excited about it, but that is where I live. So, oh, this is a beautiful onion I need to pull pretty soon. And again, here we have the echinacea on the west side of my bed, planted directly in the middle. I had 2 of them and they got this huge. The only thing competing in height really is the dill and that sunflower. And down along the edge, I do have other eggplant that will come up and they will hang over the edge of my bed. That's how I like to do it. And then we have, I believe this is a calendula here, and some random volunteer mustards, and some radishes that never did well that are blooming. And I just think it's quite lovely to leave bolted plants sometimes for pollinators. We have some cilantro that is about to bolt and all sorts of peppers in here. So that is this bed. And I forgot to mention little tiny basils that I really need to, well, they're not getting a whole lot of water or just need to pinch them back to encourage more growth. But they're mingled through here. I need to give them a little pruning to encourage them to plump up. Overall, I just think that's such a lovely bed, and I like to plant things polyculture, not monoculture, so you will see so many different things mixed in my beds. And I also love volunteer plants. So here we have a volunteer zinnia, which is such a pretty color coming up, and a volunteer calendula coming up. Oh, so funny. All right, we're gonna go over to this tomato bed. This is mostly my determinates or my paste tomatoes. I have some chamomile, zinnia, some random volunteer mustard, zinnia, or no, not zinnia, sorry, chamomile. A volunteer sunflower, another volunteer sunflower. I think there's 3 or 4 in this bed. Maybe 5, more than I thought. Here is a cilantro coming up, which is doing pretty well because it's been so mild. And this is the east side of the bed, so it gets shaded by these tomatoes. And I've got a few onions. We had a problem with squirrels digging up my onions this fall and planting their own acorns to grow oak trees, and so I've pulled so many oak trees out of my garden beds. It's quite hilarious. At the end of here I have kale that is finishing off. I might let it keep going, but this is the dino kale, and I think there's 4 plants of it here. We have some extra tomatoes that I didn't have room for that I put in pots. I know that these are not very strong tomato cages, but honestly I didn't want them to lay down, so I just kind of did a make-do solution right now. I think this is green zebra, and they are super pretty stripes. And there's quite a few on this little plant. Over here, so my tomatoes, I have a random, I'm pretty sure it's sun gold cherry tomato in this bed that was unmarked, and so I just put it in this bed. I couldn't remember what it was. We have more tomatoes that were extra in containers. Oh, strawberry blonde calendula. It is one of my favorites of the calendula colors. The back of the leaves are kind of stripy. They're so pretty. There is some cilantro that basically dried out and I can harvest it. It went to seed. You know cilantro is coriander, and so if you use coriander seed ground in your spices, if you let it bolt, you can grind your own. This is beautiful. That's Brad's Atomic Grape, and I really like those, and so I'm excited about having those in my garden again this year. I think I've grown them for 4 or 5 years. And then this is kind of sad. I want to show you like the glory and the sadness. Something is terribly wrong with this tomato. I was out here a couple days ago. It did not look like this. San Marzano, it looks pretty unhealthy. I think I'm probably just going to pull it because I don't want whatever's wrong with it to spread. And yeah. Sometimes that happens and I just have to pull a whole plant and cut my losses, you know. And I don't usually pull tomatoes. I usually cut them, but if there's a disease, I don't want this in the soil. I'm gonna pull it right here while I'm thinking of it with you guys and be done with that one. We'll need to put that actually in the burn pile and take that little plastic thing off because I don't want whatever's wrong with that in my garden. But this jet setter looks very beautiful. It's really big to show you. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a good sized tomato right there. And that one is a hybrid. I did put a couple hybrids in my garden this year to see if they would help with production in the heat, because it's really, really, really hot. As I said, 110 next Friday. Oh, look at those snapdragons. My word, they're so pretty. You know, I've never had snapdragons reseed. I've had a harder time with them than a lot of people, so I'm really hoping some of these self-seed and come back and I don't have to start them over and over again. I have little bits of basil and dill and stuff throughout my garden. I know some people say do not grow dill next to tomatoes, but I get so many volunteers that sometimes I pull them and sometimes I don't. Oh, this. Volunteer. I think it's a daikon radish. That's awesome. I'll have to pull that pretty soon. It's actually doing better than the ones I purposely planted. Goodness. And that's a pretty good basil right there. And lots of tomatoes in this bed, specifically because they're determinants or they are hybrids that are known for production. And I have a lot of my other stuff, fancy stuff, in other beds. Another calendula at the end, and a lot of baby volunteers. That's the thing. Once you plant calendula, you will often have tons of volunteers, and I've already potted some of these up and sold them or gifted them because I have so many from this plant that have come up. Here's even another little one, and tons of little ones down there. They self-seed a lot. So that is this tomato bed. That is mostly, as I said, hybrids, determinants, paste tomatoes, canning tomatoes. Let's go over to my hot pepper bed. I feel like my rhyme and reason of where I'm taking you is kind of silly, but that's how we're doing it, you know? I have 2 eggplant black beauties on the end, and as I said, because it's been so cool, they're taking their time. I have 2 tomatillos. I had a third, and something broke off the top, and so it is gone. So I was so glad I planted 3 because they only pollinate if you have at least 2. So I don't have any issues with that right now. That's great. We've got some tomatillos growing on there, and we have more chard. I just have so much chard in my garden. I actually did pull a couple plants this year, but you wouldn't know it from looking. And this is one of our favorite hot sauce varieties, Thai Dragon. I will sing its praises forever. Everyone loved that hot sauce. Here's more. I have quite a few of them, and I'll get my first harvest, and then I'll let them get bigger and grow more. And as always, tons of volunteer mustard in my garden. It's kind of a mystery. Okay. Anyway, these are my spicy peppers. I have more chard. I have alyssum, and I love purple. I love purple in the garden. And then I have my cantaloupe that I train up, and I just once in a while, you know, encourage it to vine, and it does really well. And I haven't had a lot of losses with cantaloupe. Like some people said, did they just fall off? I suppose they could, but I've had pretty good luck with it. And I planted more down here. I don't know if you can see that, because bugs ate the ones I transplanted. I planted a bunch of flowers in here. Oh, in my path at the step over are California poppies. So that's what happens when you let volunteers live. I have a lot of zinnia, 2 more of, I think it's a Black Beauty eggplant. And I have more zinnia. I had such a hard time starting zinnia inside this year. I'll show you what I did instead. Oh, this is one of my favorite cosmos. I think it's called Snow Puff. It is absolutely gorgeous. I tried to save seed from it last year, not terribly successfully, so I'm gonna do a better job this year with it. It's one of my favorite. It is so beautiful, so delicate. I love it. And then this is a Sartrelois. Leaves aren't looking so gorgeous, but hopefully they're okay. Tomato I stuck at the end of this bed because I ran out of room. Yeah, some of them are really yellowing bad. I kind of think that I might be overwatering with how mild the temps have been, and I'm hoping that's all it is. But we usually are so dry that our problem is things being too dry, and so hot that everything evaporates and dries up. So here's more hot peppers. Another zinnia. I thought I planted a marigold over here, but I cannot find it. It may not have made it. And more chard. I want to look and see if some of these have blossoms yet. This is my habanero, and I weirdly, with all the peppers I've grown, I never have successfully got fruit from my habanero. I don't know why. I've grown them so many years to big bushy plants and no fruit. I've successfully got reapers before, but not habaneros. So I'm really hoping with all those blossoms this early that I get some good peppers from it. I want it so bad. I love that pepper. So I'm gonna go to the back of the garden, to the other arch trellises. Let's just stay on the arch trellis theme right now. Oh guys, real life. If you have weird things happening sometimes with your tomatoes, you're not the only one. Oh, I'll deal with that later. Okay, so this is where I started zinnia this year because it's such a hard time inside. I just broadcasted like 200 seeds and watered them, and marigolds. My marigolds didn't do that great, only got a couple, but lots of zinnias, and then I've transplanted them everywhere. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I tried to save seed from some of my favorites, and one of my favorites had this green in it, and it came back. That's one of the ones that came back, so that's so good. So this is a ton of Thai basil. I love basil. I love basil tea. I love Thai food. I love everything about basil. Here are some more onions. As I said, I tried to put onions basically everywhere in my garden over the fall, winter, and dumb squirrels thwarted my efforts. I have loofah going up. I'm hoping they do better this year. I have 3. This one's doing great. Last year I only had 2 and they never got to fruiting. Actually, that's not true. They started to fruit right before frost. So we didn't actually get fruit. This is, I believe, acorn squash I'm growing for the first time, called Sweet Reba. And there's just a couple plants, but they are quite vigorous. I'm very happy here. I have my ginormous volunteer sunflower, and I just love flowers everywhere. So you're gonna see bolting mustard, you're gonna see more alyssum, another zinnia tucked in there, of course more mustard. And over here, this whole trellis is dedicated to pumpkins. Oh my goodness, I should show you a picture of last year.
About time for me to pick these beautiful pumpkins.
They were so perfect, beautiful Cinderella pumpkins. And this year I'm growing both Cinderella and minis. So that should cover up, goodness, our next garden tour. I bet you it's gonna be pretty far up. And then on the end of this bed, I have just coming out into the open space, spaghetti squash. So that will be all over to try to step through next time I give you a tour, I'm imagining. I have some different parsleys just tucked underneath my plants. I love parsley, and mine always bolts and doesn't come back. So I'm hoping that I can keep it alive and that it will come back. These are some zucchini, and I've already harvested from them. These are some lettuce I tucked underneath them to try to kind of permaculture, get them to grow longer. Basically, I've been feeding some sort of animal that has eaten all the tops off, all the sides off. I haven't got to eat them, but maybe that is protected by other plants by them eating that. So I have 3 zucchini. I grow vertically. I have 3 yellow squash. And what I do to try to tell you how I grow vertically, let me explain that to you. Okay, this is really bright from this angle, but what I do is I go in here and I put like a tomato cage, and then I train the plant to grow inside the cage, which I have kind of neglected that right now. And then I cut off all of the bottom leaves, and I've also kind of neglected that right now, but it helps see the squash so you don't miss them. It also helps save space. It helps pollinators find the flowers. And Sam is coming up to the fence. I've got to show you. He makes a cameo in every video. He is such a rascal. He is our alpha rooster, and he is such a rascal. Hi, Sam. Are you wanting some chard, Sam? Am I your best friend, Sam, or are you trying to threaten me? You know there's a fence between us, right? Do you know there's a fence? You don't even think there is, do you? Oh gosh. Roosters are hilarious. So telling you about how I grow squash vertically is making me realize I have so much work on my squash to do, because some of them are are escaping their tomato cage because I have not done really great at keeping up with them. So here I am while I'm talking to you trying to push one back under the cage. So that is a job for another time because I'm going to finish this tour and I want to show you my citrus. I taped a little bit of my citrus last night that I'll put in here, and I want to show you also my potted citrus because I am so incredibly proud of how well they're doing. But that is for in a little bit. Let me show you the other beds in the veggie garden. Stay focused, stay focused. Are you getting tired yet? I think I am. Oh, it's so much talking when I do a garden tour. I just I'm talking, and when I work out here, I usually am quiet and just doing my thing. See my cute shirt while I'm facing the camera? Eat real food. Got that from Roots and Refuge, and I love it. Okay, let's get back to this tour. Okay, next we're gonna do another tomato bed. These are taxi tomatoes. I have them in a little hexagonal pot. Goodness, so many things look kind of maybe overwatered. This is Jamaican hibiscus. We make a tea from that, a special drink for my husband he grew up with in Guatemala. These tomatoes are doing pretty good. I think these are also taxi right here. They are a determinate heirloom. My calendula are getting very pest ridden. This happens every year. They're almost like a trap crop. Get all the dry pests, but they will come back. They do not die off all the way, believe it or not. I have some different types of basil. I think that's Tulsi basil. I think that is, I don't know, that looks like Emily basil, the Italian one. Different basils in here. I have lots of leeks. This is like basically my permanent leek bed. Oh yeah, and this bed is my cherry tomato bed for the most part. So you're gonna see a lot of cherry tomatoes, lots and lots and lots and lots of cherry tomatoes. We like several different varieties. Goodness, this one looks kind of overwatered too. Okay, I'm gonna have to check the water and see what's going on here. So the yellowing makes me think overwatered for several of them. So I'll have to go back and check that. But I have chives. I have garlic that I need to harvest. I have onions that I'm letting bolt purposefully. I will save seed for planting onions in the fall. And I have bolting cilantro. I will save those seed. We grind it as a spice. I'm so excited about the cherry tomatoes. I am honestly concerned about the yellowing, but I do think it might be a water issue. I really do think that might be the problem. If I turn down the water, I wonder if it's going to do better. I was trying to push the water spigots away from the garlic so I could harvest them soon, and that might actually be my problem. Over here is my strawberry bed. And I showed you guys how I thinned it, and I fed it with fish emulsion so we could have another big harvest. And you can actually see that they are blooming again, and they are having little strawberries start on them again. We had a couple wonderful harvests early this year, and they are ever-bearing, so we will get more harvests. And my friend Jen posted on Instagram a strawberry jalapeno jam that I definitely want to try. I've been pulling off any runners like this, just pulling them off. They suck life from the plant. If you don't need more plants, you don't need runners. That is the truth. So every time I'm out here, you'll see me pulling runners off, trying to conserve the energy to make fruit. My monster sage. This sage, I don't want to say it only started from one sage plant, and it is enormous, perennial, comes back every year. I had no idea it'd take up so much room. I cut it back to nothing every winter, pretty much. I have most of my soft neck garlic in here, and they look like they're about ready to me. More alyssum. This one I think is just sweet alyssum. I don't know if it has another name, but it's the white one. And my soft neck garlic. And then a lot of my other kinds of tomatoes, and they don't look as bad. They don't look as, that's why I think it's probably a weird overwater issue when I moved water spigots to dry out the garlic. So I'm hoping those were covered. This is the only one that doesn't look that great. And it is actually a hybrid chef's choice that should be very hardy. So I don't understand that. Okay, oh, also in this bed, I have my celery. I started them kind of late. A lot of people here grow them in the fall. I started them in spring, but I have them on the north side of these tomatoes, hoping that the shade will give them a chance to grow. And I have this beautiful big mammoth leaf basil, I think is what the technical one is. I keep calling it lettuce leaf, but I think it's mammoth leaf. And on the end of this bed, I have cucumbers. Oh, and they're already setting some fruit. Yes. Oh, there's a good one over there. Couple extra tomato pots. We had too many tomatoes this year. No room. Okay, look at that one. Yay, these are my pickling cucumbers. And I had a hard time with them last year until really late in the season. So I'm glad they're doing so good early. Oh, but they do want to go vine on my tomatoes, so I'm gonna have to make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure they go upward and not over the tomato plants and choke them. I always like flowers, so you'll always see different kinds of flowers in my garden. In every bed, I have cosmos. In this one, I have lots of different herbs, like chives in this bed, and the sage, and I let them flower, and it makes me happy. It makes the bees happy. Yeah, it's like my favorite. So this bed's doing pretty good. They're not huge, but as I said, we haven't had a lot of heat. So I think once I harvest the garlic and give them space, they're going to take off. And my last bed I'm gonna show you, I have little lemon cucumbers down here. I had to replant them like 3 times, finally, then also from seed because they kept getting eaten. So these look like they're gonna make it. I have my hardneck garlic that I need to harvest. Some cilantro tucked in here and different stuff tucked in here and there. The whole middle is the sweet potatoes that we planted. I did a video how to plant sweet potatoes, and I have even more slips to fill in the places where I harvest the garlic. So we're gonna have even more. Look at that. That one is the healthiest I've seen. I had to feed all these with fish emulsion because they had a hard time with transplant because I let them get too root bound in a cup just because of life circumstances. The whole middle, we have peas, which are doing unseasonably well. Mine didn't do very well over the winter. A lot of people in our area grow them over the winter, but they did great this June. It is about to be 110. I'm pretty sure we're gonna lose them all. But I think I'm gonna plant beans down the middle in their place and have some noodle beans, like yard-long noodle beans, grow up this middle. And peas are so sweet, even with the heat. I mean, heat is relative. 80s, 90s, even some days in 70s, that's not actually heat. 110, that's actually heat. I look at this and I'm like, harvest peas right now, do all these things right now. Don't just enjoy the garden tour. But these are done to share with you. A lot of people local want to come see my garden. But also, it's for me to look back on and I can compare the different seasons, and it's so amazing to remember what was growing when. Especially I'll look back in different years and I'll be shocked how many peas were doing well at the end of June. Looks like we have some more fuzzy ends of our lettuce to harvest. I'm telling myself don't do it yet, and I think that our garlic is finally ready. Why do I say that? Because I look at how many green leaves, there are to dead leaves, and I think we're gonna do this. We're gonna have to make a garlic harvest video to take you guys along with me. But my kids will be so sad if I harvest without them. This is one of our traditions, so I gotta wait. Maybe this evening or tomorrow. And what garden tour is complete without showing the wood chip mulch that I need to put under a few things still before it is 110 degrees. This is key to growing food, growing any kind of plant in a very hot climate like ours. Key, I'm telling you. I came out here behind the chicken coop. It's not really a garden tour, but our blackberries this year, I don't know if you can see, they are producing, and we might actually get fruit because of our cool June, because often we don't water this area. Often they dry out if it's like really drought year before they're very productive. So that would be good. I need to bring buckets out and harvest. We could use this sprinkler head and water them, but like we don't actually know how. That sounds funny, but when we got this property, the seller did not tell us how the irrigation worked. Oh, there's a dragonfly on there. And so there's a ton of berries, and we probably could do one harvest as soon as they're ripe, but yeah, it's just pretty much brambles here, and I figure that it feeds and shelters wildlife and the deer, and we don't do a whole lot with this area. But the bees love it. The bees love the blossoms, and last year our honey that we harvested mostly tasted blackberry-esque. So that's fun. We don't water any of our back field. Even though we've had a wetter year, our water district, we don't have a well. Our water district's very expensive, so there are a few like different sprinkler heads. We don't know how to really use them. I don't know if the piping is still sound. Like I showed you that leak in the pipe my husband was digging up. Lots of things are not sound in the irrigation on this place that would completely have to be redone anyway. Oh, real fast, let me show you what it looks like from the chicken's perspective. All the sunflowers in my garden. It is so pretty. Okay, I'm walking towards the garden from the chicken coop, and look at that. That is the view that my chickens get. They get the prettiest view of the sunflowers of anybody. Okay, this is my little herb garden, shade garden, ginger, beautiful Japanese maple, my one lone dahlia that did already have its first bloom, but I picked the first one off because it was like bit by birds. I have lots of herbs. They're all doing so good. I had a whole video about how I planted these different flowers like snapdragons, and there's a sweet william and calendula, and it is just, I think it's my favorite little spot. And I love that we put these up so the chickens would stop digging there. That was my problem last year. This is where we can sit outside and just enjoy the beauty of my little permaculture area. The bees and the lavender, they love each other. And my very first citrus I ever planted in the ground is doing well. It has a few lemons, but I'm just mostly happy that it is so happy. We had to do so much amendment on this one. There's some lemons. That it just feels like $1 million that it's actually doing well. And my pot of chocolate mint is always super happy. I need to cut it way back again and make some mint tea. I make a huge thing of mint sun tea and then put it in the fridge and drink it cold. Here's another cup of hardening off sweet potato slips ready to go in as soon as I take that garlic out. So we're gonna have so many sweet potatoes this year. That is what that bed is mostly dedicated to. I guess before I show you the citrus, I should show you our blueberries and pollinator garden. This front part is doing great. We have 2 blueberry plants. They don't really have many blueberries this year, but the fact that they're growing so well and look thriving is all I care about. And lots of different flowers in here. If we go through the gate, we have 2 hydrangeas. We have strawberries that were transplanted. 1 lone blueberry. This is very, very shaded, but that is that bed. And then over here by my citrus, I'll talk about them in just a second. And I'll put you in on a video from last night that I talk more about them. Are 2 unfinished beds. And then this whole thing, I love it. So much of it is in honor of my Aunt Benny, who passed away, and so many flowers from her memorial. This blueberry bush is loaded. They're mostly pretty tiny, but it's loaded and it makes me happy. And so many kinds of flowers that we planted are doing really well. So many. There's a Mexican sunflower my friend gave me. So pretty. Our blueberry bush. What am I talking about? Our butterfly bush. Much taller than before, and that's going to be such a great, great thing for butterflies and bees. My rosemary is getting bigger and bigger. Still hasn't bloomed yet though. Maybe next year. And then all sorts of things, from strawberries to blueberries to all sorts of flowers in my pollinator garden. Guys, this is just an area that's just for my delight of my soul. My son broadcasted hollyhocks back here, and just now so many are coming up and I have no idea what color they are. So that will be super fun to find out. There's a blueberry bush. That one is mostly shaded. I love it. You know, I had a goal to make a pollinator garden because I did not like the back of my neighbor's shed being the view from my daughter's room. And it has come along really nice, and it actually is going to fill in and be just lovely. Just what I envisioned. Makes me crazy happy. Crazy, crazy happy. And since my citrus, Let's Chat About Citrus video is, I think, my most popular video by far on my channel, I want to share with you my citrus trees. Little update on my Mandarin Grove in the ground. They are all growing. They are all green. I just fed them with citrus food. As I said, some of these are younger. This one looked really bad after the snow had sat on it. It's looking great. I fed them with a citrus fertilizer, organic one. And this one is my bushiest, but I'm hoping it gets bigger. It's got the biggest trunk. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep that one growing. Over here, this one looks maybe like it needs more water, but I used our rainwater we collected and I fed it. Over here is kind of my sparsest one. I think it's because it gets the most shade. It is shaded by a tall eucalyptus. It has only been here for 1 year. And then this one is leafing out pretty great. I just want it to really make some growth this summer. This one is leafing out really good. Again, I'm just looking for growth. And over here, this one's got a lot of young leaves. They're the lighter green ones. And it has come back very good. If you remember past videos of how did my citrus fare, this top stuff died off from my frost blanket sitting on it with snow on it, but it came back just fine. So those are my in-ground citrus, much smaller than my potted citrus. I have said before, I think potted is the easiest way to go here, even though we're zone 9B. They will live in the ground, they just take longer to establish and to be healthy. I'm walking over to my potted ones. I have come to the conclusion that potted citrus are the way to go for growing citrus. Now, I do have a lemon in the ground. I have 8 Mandarin, my little Mandarin Grove, but you've got to see the potted citrus and how they're thriving. I mean, they are full of fruit and they're thriving and they're young. Here's an orange. Look at how gorgeous the leaves are. It is so happy. It's a huge pot. I mean, like, I want to show you how big this pot is. Sit next to it, you can see how big that pot is. It's a really large pot. I got them at Costco. You have to drill holes in the bottom because there's not drainage, but they are really big, perfect for a tree. We have a lime tree. Our first time being successful with lime over the winters when we moved it to a pot. That was key for us. We have a tangelo with just a couple fruits. Those are new to us this year. It is so dark green, so happy in the pot. A clementine mandarin, which if you look at the size of it compared to the clementines I have in the ground, it loves the pot. Our Meyer lemon in the ground is so small compared to our Meyer lemon in the pot. And in the pot, it has so many fruit. Okay, so I mentioned to you about how the lime, this is the first year we've had it live through the winter. And we live in zone 9B. We should be able to do citrus through the winter. You know, the lemon made it. Mandarins usually made it. We had a couple die. Limes never made it. They're more sensitive, but pots made it perfect. I didn't even have to cover it. I just pushed it under the eaves next to the house and it was perfect. So I really am a believer of citrus in pots. I feel like it could extend citrus growing to zones not traditionally growing citrus. Is you could bring it in the house over the winter as a pretty house plant that has fruit. You could put it in a heated garage or heated greenhouse. There's so much you can do. Or if you're like where I am, that they just need a tiny bit of protection, you just push them against the house. The warmth of the house keeps them warm. And I know a lot of people are interested in citrus because I've had so many people find my channel through my videos about citrus. Okay, this is another orange that our neighbor gave us, Valencia. They gave up on doing some fruit trees and knew that we did fruit trees, so they gifted us their trees. This one's a little yellow. I might want to feed it something. This is, oh, our grapefruit is huge. Okay, it is a huge plant. And the grapefruit are already getting to be a nice size. They're actually going to probably be heavy for the branches. Lots of them, and I like to juice grapefruit. That's how I like grapefruit. We planted this. It's a mandarin. What is it called? A Tanjo mandarin. So it's a different kind of mandarin, but I just wanted some variety. I saw it at Costco. I have some funny volunteer mustards because the soil I used had mustard seed in it. So there you go. I'll pick the mustard for dinner. So that concludes my garden tour for today. I would love to take you to see more of the fruit trees next time. In July maybe. I think some will have ripe fruit. We do have some plums almost ripe on our Santa Rosa plum tree that we might have harvested by then. But I'm going to wrap it up. I've had a wonderful time having you, and I'm so glad that you've stuck around this long to see my garden and to see the different areas of gardens that I'm growing. And I hope that it encourages you, inspires you, even my failures and the tomato plant I had to pull. I hope that encourages you, because we all have it happen. We all have things succeed and things go wrong. And anyway, bless you and happy gardening. And I hope to see you next time. Please like my video. Please subscribe so you can stay up to date on what we're doing. And I'd love if you shared our channel with people you think might be interested. Have a wonderful day.